John and I talk Super Bowl on this week's podcast.
Bald,
Blind,
and buddies.
Timmy C, how the hell are you, pal?
I'm good. It's above 0 Fahrenheit here. It's a beautiful day. It's sunny.
Okay, so you know how my dream has always been to live in one of the Carolinas, live in Georgia, get a lake house, whatever. Even Tennessee I really like quite a bit.
Yeah.
And so I'm always fascinated, by the way, when people get hired in these NFL jobs, because it's like, it's really cool that you got hired, but you have to go live in Las Vegas. I couldn't live in Las Vegas. You know what I mean? And there's only 32 NFL jobs. But, like, I would kill to have the Tennessee Titans job. Because I would imagine it'd be low stress in terms of, like, the media and expectations and so forth. And, you know, you'd live in Tennessee. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I mean, it's not New York. I mean, that would be the worst. For being a coach, like for a coach as a coach,
in terms of, well, John Harbaugh is now our coach, and it has been 14 years. Timmy, my son Charlie, who just turned 14 last week, was a couple weeks old the last time the Giants won the Super Bowl, and it has been a rapid downhill descent since then. I actually kind of have hope though, because the two things that matter are who's your coach. Well, the three things: who's your coach, who's your owner, and do you have a quarterback?
Yep.
And it sounds like we've got stability at least in those three.
Yeah.
Which
for sure.
seems to be I'll take it. And speaking of coaches, by the way, prayers and thoughts go out to one of the great ones, Lou Holtz. He has entered hospice care. I've been hearing from people at the university that what God's plan is, who knows, but Wes Pritchett highlighted his 3 rules of life, which is do your best, do what's right, and always let the people that you love know that you love them. And I just want to say Godspeed, and we're thinking of the good coach. So go Irish, and best wishes, Coach.
I've treasured lessons I've learned from Lou, just at a distance. So we wish him.
Did you ever meet him on campus?
No.
I did a handful of times actually. I ran into him a couple times walking back from class, and then there was one time where he came and spoke at one of the dorms, and I had an opportunity to meet with him.
Yeah.
Tiny little guy, though. It's hysterical that he's coaching these monsters of the Midway, if you will. These monster offensive linemen, and he's just this tiny little guy.
Yeah. So, yeah, that's interesting.
But he commands respect. So.
Yeah.
Well, Timmy, we have some, we're going to talk a little bit lighter today, but before we do that, you had some news updates you wanted to talk about.
I do.
Highlight, right?
Yep, breaking news.
And I'll do the trivia after that,
That's our breaking news theme.
Did you create that, or did AI?
AI. That was AI.
Oh, of course. Yeah.
So you sent me this, alerted me to this from the University of Wisconsin.
I did.
This is from the Climber's Gonna Climb file. Jennifer Mnookin will be the next president at Columbia University. So she's officially done slumming it in flyover country here.
Please don't give more credence to Fox News than what they believe they deserve, please. Wisconsin is a badass state. I would live in Wisconsin. Come on, that's not flyover country. You have an argument in Iowa where you grew up, but not Wisconsin.
So she's going to be the 4th president, John, in 2 years. This is like if you ever watched The Empire Strikes.
Columbia?
Yeah.
Really? Oh, is this in response to the student protest? I know that at one point Claire Shipman, who used to be one of my favorite TV journalists, she was temporarily put in as the president, probably just as a placeholder and so forth. But yeah, this is the reflux to their behavior, right?
So John, this is like, if you ever watched The Empire Strikes Back, it's like being the next Admiral up under Darth Vader. You're like, this is surely going to go well. I can find that rebel ship.
It's like being the Jets head coach.
Yeah.
No hope.
Yeah.
No hope. Just check your hope at the door. It's done.
Yeah. I give her the over under at 15 months. If you as a listener want to chime in with your guess on how long she's going to remain in the post, we will put that up. We'll feature that in future ones if you're you want to let us know on that. And in related news, John, Todd Monken is taking over the Cleveland Browns, another ethical and well-run franchise, and we wish him nothing but success too.
Now, question for you: Why are you giving this professor 15 months? Is it because of her tenure at University of Wisconsin? Is it because of the job at Columbia is so difficult? Why are you giving it 15 months? And by the way, do you remember? This is the second thing. Do you remember when Theresa May became the Prime Minister of the UK, and there was a fellow who decided to put a head of lettuce on live video stream to see if the head of lettuce decayed slower than her prime ministership, and I think she was in and out in 3 weeks or something, 30 days. I think it was the shortest premiership or prime minister role in UK history. It was under 35 days of something like that. But why are you giving this poor woman so little hope?
Well, so here's how it works, John. If she does badly, she'll leave quickly. If she does well, she has so much avarice and ambition, she'll go to a better job. So the only
is there a better job than being a president of Columbia
University? I'm sure she
City?
thinks there is. And you know what? She's almost as smart as she thinks she is.
Have you met this woman, or is this just a reflection of your feelings towards the University of Wisconsin? Let's put it all on the table here.
I've been at presentations where she's graced us with her presence.
Well, Timmy, on a lighter note, I have a peach cobbler going right now on the crock pot. So if you're interested, swing by.
Okay, sounds good.
Yeah.
You want to give your address out, John? People can come by?
No, let's not do that. No. I did that to my one buddy. I put his car up for sale because he had teased me about Notre Dame. So I put his car up for sale on Craigslist and gave the telephone number. And so he got something like 75 phone calls and 100 texts in 45 minutes. He's like, I won't do that again. I was like, yeah, I hope you've learned your lesson. So I said, next time we'll put your physical address.
Oh, yeah.
So the answer to the trivia and then this week's trivia. How about that? And then we're going to talk a little bit lighter this week, right? Because we've had some heavy duties.
Yep.
Heavy duties. And sometimes taking a break is good for the soul and good for human behavior and, just kind of laugh at yourself, if you will. But the question that we asked, and this is in, what do you call it? College-associated minor athletics?
Minor league, CAML.
That's right. Okay. College-associated minor league, CAML, right. The question that was asked was, which university has the most national championships, both male and female? And to be honest with you, I find this to be really an unjust answer, and I'll explain in just a moment. Do you know who it is?
Harvard.
No, I was actually going to guess them as well because they're very good at the fencing and curling and hockey and all the sorts of.
And they have 100 years head start.
Right. The answer though is similar. It's Stanford.
Okay.
And I find it very unfair. And it's like rooting for people were asking me last week during the NFC Championship game, are you rooting for the Los Angeles Rams or the Seattle Seahawks? And I said, I really don't care. But given a choice, I'm probably going to root for Seattle. And somebody said, why? And I said, because I find it to be just unfair that you have like that weather in Southern California and that amount of wealth and blah, blah, blah. It's not my style. It wouldn't appeal to me per se. But I can understand why people are drawn to living in Southern California, right? Mm-hmm. You can't have good sports too. Like Cleveland, the aforementioned Cleveland Browns, they deserve to have a winner. Right. They don't have one and haven't in recent memory, but, the Buffalo Bills, the Detroit Lions, these are, hard scrabble cities that have terrible weather and are going through this cold front that we're experiencing right now. And by the way, Katie actually said she's like, I want to move. I was like, are you serious? She's like, no, but I could. I was like, oh God, can't wait.
Yeah.
For warmer climates. But don't you agree with me on that on Stanford? You can't just be like in Northern California and have all these brilliant people that graduated there, the founders of Google and
Hewlett Packard and blah, blah, blah.
Yeah, they all either came through there or dropped out, and Mark Zuckerberg and Facebook and no, I guess he went to Harvard. I beg your pardon.
Yeah.
But you understand what I'm saying, right? You can't have it all, but they apparently do.
And, it's an embarrassment of riches, I suppose, huh, John?
Yeah, I suppose. Jennifer
Mnookin, if you're listening, they might need a chancellor in the next few years.
Pretty sure she's not going to be listening to me after today's podcast. And then, in terms of this week's trivia, tomorrow being February 2nd, it is the annual tradition known as Groundhog Day, which takes place in Punxsutawney, Pennsylvania here, a couple hours from me. And it led me to do some research. Do you know when the first Groundhog Day was officially recognized?
Nope.
It's a long time ago. I was actually surprised.
I bet it's in the mid-1800s.
You're pretty close. So answer next week. Yeah. When was the official start of Groundhog Day?
All right.
And then further, I'll give this as an addendum, which is they have tracked Punxsutawney Phil's predictions.
Mm-hmm.
What percentage do you think he gets right? It's not It's not 100%, and it's
No.
not zero. It's somewhere in between.
Well, here's the question. So they say Punxsutawney Phil. Clearly, a groundhog has a limited lifespan. Who designates which groundhog remains Punxsutawney Phil over time?
That's a good question. It's kind of like mascots, like Bevo, the mascot for Texas, and Uga, the Georgia Bulldog, that kind of thing. They just name it the same breed, but I don't know. That's a good question, actually. So.
But like Morris Frank, one of the founders of the Seeing Eye, his dog was always named Buddy, and so it'd be like Buddy 1, Buddy 2, Buddy 5.
Well, didn't George Foreman do that with his kids?
With
He's
his
got
kids.
like 5 or 6 kids that are named George 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6 or something. Yeah, very strange. Well, Timmy, let's get into it. First and foremost, I want it as clear as possible, particularly of Commissioner Davis, who I found to be absolutely wonderful. Didn't you find his interview to be wonderful last week?
Oh, it was great.
Yeah, he was awesome. He says on that interview, for those of you who haven't listened, he says, "Hey, John, now that the Giants are out of the playoffs, maybe you can root for the Patriots." And what did I say, Tim?
I think
absolutely no. Absolutely not. I mean, I don't dislike the Patriots as much as I do the University of Miami, but it's pretty close. I will be rooting, of course, for the Seattle Seahawks this Sunday. They are favored by 4.5. My son, who is sort of a savant about this stuff, is saying that it's not even going to be close, Dad. But who knows? Stranger things have happened, but the Super Bowl, to me, has really taken on a new life, because when we were growing up, do you remember in the 80s, the Super Bowl was literally the worst game of the year. It was always 55-10 was one of them. There was 49-7 in one of them. I mean, they were all blowouts. They've gotten decidedly better recently. Have you noticed that, Tim? And secondarily, who are you rooting for?
There was a run of NFC beatdowns for like most of my childhood, through the 80s and most of the 90s. The NFC really dominated. So whoever
and not only that, it was the NFC East. It was the Giants, what was then the Redskins, and then of course the Cowboys in the 90s, and then the Eagles were always
the Niners in the 80s were huge.
Yeah. They all had, the Giants won in 86 and 90. The Skins won in 87. San Francisco won in 88 and 89. And then, of course, the Cowboys, won 3 of the next 4.
Yeah.
So that was, they were just, and that's one of the things, by the way, that has always annoyed me is I understand you don't become a billionaire if you have a small ego. But if Jerry Jones could have gotten along with Jimmy Johnson, and even Troy Aikman says this in some of the interviews, we would have won 5 or 6 Super Bowls.
Yeah.
They won 3 of them, 2 with Jimmy Johnson at the helm. And then, of course, Barry Switzer inherited Jimmy Johnson's team and just said, the players said, "Don't get out of the way, we'll take care of it." And they won again. So, but anyway.
Yeah, I'm rooting for Seattle. I don't have anything against this iteration of New England. I like Mike Vrabel. I think, with Drake May. That's right.
Yeah.
Why did I blink on that? Yeah, so Drake May.
I blank on my children's name. Don't worry about it.
Yeah. So I think he's going to be very exciting. I like the teamwork of New England. They don't have a lot of superstars.
Certainly doesn't seem that way on both sides, actually.
Actually.
I mean, there's Jackson Smith and Jigba, who is arguably the best wide receiver in the NFL right now, playing for Seattle.
Yeah.
And the only reason I know that is I had him in fantasy, and man, was he valuable.
Oh my goodness. Yeah.
But yeah, I feel the same way about Mike Vrabel. I don't have any resentment per se towards, to your point, this iteration. I just, again, I find it to be unjust, and I have a thing about justice that Stanford has that many national titles and has the perfect weather and the most gorgeous campus. I find it to be unfair that teams, struggle to find a quarterback, and they had what, to most people's eyes, including mine, the greatest quarterback to ever play the game for that many years, and they took 3 years off, and now they're right back where they belong. I find that to be unjust.
Yeah, what was interesting? I was doing, research. You don't notice this as it ticks by, but from like 2000 to 2020, like either Peyton Manning, Roethlisberger, or Tom Brady like represented the AFC in like almost all the Super Bowls.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, the same thing happens in a lot of lines of work. One of the things I used to tell my students is between 1952 and 2008, one of the 2 major representatives of the Republican Party, and by that I mean the president or vice presidential nominee, was either a Nixon, a Bush, or a Nixon, a Bush, or a Reagan. Yeah. No, it was Nixon, Ford, or Bush. That's what it was. Nixon, Ford, or Bush, because Nixon was 52 and 56, and then was the nominee in 60. And then 64 was Goldwater. That was the only year where it didn't happen. And then 68 was Nixon. 72 was Nixon. 76 was Ford. And, it goes on and on. So it's not a small... You'd like to think that we are sort of an egalitarian society, but in a lot of ways we're an aristocracy in some ways. And I suppose sports is no different, but...
Yeah. I was asking myself this. Why do people watch sports? Why do they watch the Super Bowl? And so I was thinking about this, and I think it goes back to the notion of the transcendence, John.
What do you mean?
Goodness, truth, and beauty, right? So, when you watch a well-executed play, you see goodness, right? You see excellence in action. You see truth because you believe that what's going on the field is fair and done. And sometimes it's beautiful. You watch a good run. You watch a perfect
football
pass.
has a magnificent beauty to it.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
No question about it. Baseball, too, particularly.
Yeah, and I think that's why people are drawn to this. Like, understanding a good movie, that can take some time. Reading a book, you got to go to a museum. But you can watch something special like the Super Bowl. And I think
innately understand it.
Yeah, I think so.
Now, there is an element of me that sees that, but I also think that there's two other elements to consider. One is just the inherent nature of humanity, which is about competition for better or for worse.
Mm-hmm.
And secondarily, though, is I also think that there is a sort of, there's that German word schadenfreude, which is delighting in the misery of others. And, as excellent as Tom Brady was, and I'll be the first person to give him his due credit, I enjoyed when he lost. Very much so. And in fact, it's kind of like they used to say that 50% of Howard Stern's audience in the 1980s tuned in because they absolutely adored him. The other 50% tuned in because they absolutely despised him. But the advertisers didn't care. People were tuning in. And there is an element of me, to your point, there's probably a transcendent element, which is the appreciation of excellence and just that kind of thing. But I find myself enjoying it more when bad things happen to people I dislike. It's terrible to say that, but how do you feel about that notion, Timmy? Meaning, I loved that Miami got beat last Monday. I loved it. And
yeah.
I'm not per se an Indiana guy. I just enjoy, and we went to the school that defines that hatred, right? I mean, right. Notre Dame, Duke basketball, the Dallas Cowboys, those kinds of teams that just, there's no gray area. So.
Yeah, I appreciate a solid, well-fought battle with a loss. I always hate those, like, spontaneous injuries. Like, I still remember Joe Theismann when I was a kid.
Oh.
You're like, oh my,
So my son asked me about that one time, and I said, "You don't know what the Theismann hit is?" He says, "I've heard about it, Dad, but I don't know what it is." I said, "Well, sit down." So I went back and I got the YouTube, and it's the live feed, and I said, "Now watch right here." And he goes, "Oh my God!" And he walked away, and it was like, he even today we were playing some sports trivia game, and Joe Theismann was one of the answers, and Charlie goes, "Dad, is that the guy with the leg?" I said, "Yep." He goes, "Oh God. Oh, God." I mean, everybody can instinctively remember that.
Yeah. So I don't mind.
And you know who was responsible for that sack, by the way?
No.
My Giants, Lawrence Taylor.
Oh, was it Lawrence Taylor?
Yeah. He never played it down again, Joe Theismann. That was it. Yeah. He was done.
Lawrence Taylor in the performance-enhancing era.
I think every era is performance-enhancing, is it not?
Maybe.
Yeah. But you also wanted to talk about the Super Bowl in the halftime, didn't you?
Oh, Bad Bunny?
Yeah, I actually read a fascinating article, which I'll link to this on ESPN.com, and I'll talk about it in a moment. But tell me your thoughts on this. And we're getting to the age now where we're outside of the target demographic of who they're trying to appeal to. You understand that, right, Tim?
Yeah,
I mean, the 25 to 45-year-old is sort of the target market that you want.
There's the Homer Simpson line. He's like, "I'm a male, 18 to 49. Everybody listens to me."
Leave it all to Homer Simpson.
Yeah.
He also has one of my favorite lines, which is, "Marge, alcohol is the cause of and solution to all the problems in the world." He's not wrong.
Yeah. So the Super Bowl halftime guest is chosen by Jay-Z's Rock Nation for the past few years. And so they chose for this year Bad Bunny, who is a mostly Spanish language rapper. Is he from Puerto Rico?
I think he's from Puerto Rico.
Yeah.
He's definitely Latin. He's definitely from... And again, I used to tell my students that, one of the things when you're talking politics, African Americans tend to be viewed as a block, both by the Republicans and the Democrats. I'm not just in terms of garnering votes. Hispanics are unique because Cubans are foundationally different than Venezuelans, or different than Puerto Ricans, or different than Mexicans. And so when they talk about the Hispanic voting bloc, it's really, which voting bloc are you talking about? So I say that to just preface that if we're incorrect about Bad Bunny being from Puerto Rico, it's not out of malice, it's just simple ignorance.
Yeah.
So it wasn't done intentionally.
No, it wasn't. Yeah. And I'm just using Puerto Rico as a geographical location, I believe.
There you go.
Yes.
Somewhere in the Caribbean, let's say. Yeah.
So he's the most downloaded artist in Spotify in 2025, and I believe for like 3 or 4 other years. So he is huge. So if you said, well, let's put a huge star in our halftime show, it makes sense. And the NFL, meanwhile, is trying to, it's kind of like a cancer. It's trying to metastasize to Mexico, Ireland, Brazil, Spain, Germany. They're going to do, I think, Australia next year. I'm sure they do China if they could. So they're trying to spread. And so how do you spread? You take a big international star, you put him on your halftime show. That's the nuts and bolts of it, I think.
And that is actually almost verbatim what this article talked about, which was, the NFL has sort of gotten itself caught up in the culture wars the last year. And the last couple of years, I shouldn't say that. Whether it be Colin Kaepernick kneeling and so forth. And statistically, and there's nothing wrong with this, half of the country is conservative. Statistically, the owners of NFL franchises tend to be of one demographic. They tend to be older, they tend to be white, they tend to be male. Not all. Shad Khan is the owner of the Jacksonville Jaguars. There is a female in control of the Tennessee Titans. Her name escapes me. But she was also the one that fired Mike Vrabel. So she fired him, and then 2 years later, the guy's going to the Super Bowl. So there is an element of that. And one of the things that people, during the first Trump administration, there was a lot of stands being taken. Mike Pence had attended a game, and then a couple players kneeled in protest during the national anthem. He got up. It was performance art, and that's fine, right? I understand that politics is performance as well as substance. I get that. But to the NFL's credit, they really stood strong on the criticism from the Trump administration about Bud Bunny on this one. And the reason, I think, is no grander than just dollars and cents. They recognize, and this is what this article talked about, they're trying to broaden their base of appeal. I mean, if you're a white, red-blooded American, male, chances are on Sundays you're watching football, just in generalities. That may not be the case for the Hispanic demographic, for females and such. And to your point, they're trying to expand into different demographics. And what better way to do that than have a internationally recognized superstar? I don't know anything about Bad Bunny. Do you, by the way?
I don't know a lot. I read a little bit, and I listened to one of his pieces today. It was interesting. It's not my jam, but I can see some artistry, and it's a little catchy.
Right, but that's the point. That's the very point, isn't it? You and I are both 50. He's not appealing to. I don't know. But again, I was never terribly big into music like some people. That's not to say that I don't appreciate good art and all these other things. It's just whatever's on the radio or whatever. I like U2. I always have, and blah blah blah. But Bad Bunny's not somebody I paid attention to, and so. The NFL is trying to expand into that. And to your point, they had, I think it was 5 international games this year. One in Madrid, one in Germany, one in London, one in Brazil, and I think they had one in Mexico City. And next year they're doing Australia. And Roger Goodell, the commissioner of the NFL, has said part of their grand plan is they want every team to play an away game at least once a year. Now, some people who are traditionalists think that that's, short-sighted because season tickets for these teams are so expensive and blah, blah, blah. I've gotten to the point now, though, Timmy, where I'd prefer, unless somebody's taking me and I'm going to be in a box and I know it's warm and blah, blah, that I'd much rather, there's very few sports that I enjoy in person more so than on television. Baseball, particularly minor league baseball, I really enjoy in person, and then hockey. But aside from that, Timmy, I'm completely content sitting on the couch. So if they're broadcasting and they happen to be on Australia, I'm not a season ticket holder anyway. For me, it's fine. And the same thing that kind of applies with Bad Bunny. They're trying to expand their demographic and their appeal. The Babylon Bee had a great line when it was announced that he was a performer, because they do it back, in the fall. They'll announce next year's Super Bowl halftime performer in October of this year, so to speak. And it says the NFL hoping to win back conservatives with a Super Bowl performance by a Spanish-speaking man in dress. So... Are you into the Super Bowl halftime? Are you into it generally, or do you like the commercials? Do you like the game? Because when we were growing up, when I was Charlie's age, when you and I were, our kids' age, the games were terrible. They were over at halftime.
Yeah.
And so you'd have nothing to do but watch the ads and
The
so forth.
commercials,
The game's pretty good, and the halftime show. Some people really get into the halftime show. I'm not one of them. How about you?
Here's my halftime show story. When Lady Gaga did the halftime show, I heard her song "Million Reasons" right for the first time, and I was like, "Wow, like that is."
Yeah, you love Lady Gaga.
Well, I do now,
Yeah.
but that is actually how that's how I came across. I thought it was just the dance pop schmuck, whatever that stuff is, and I was like, "Wow, there's an artist there." So that actually did stick with me, but otherwise, yeah, it's. My kids always ask when there's a game, they're like, "Hey, Dad, who do you think's going to win?" And my answer is the NFL. The NFL's going to win, right? They know what they're doing, right?
When they fly to Las Vegas, who's going to win? The house, for
yeah,
sure.
Yeah, the house wins.
Yeah, there's a reason that all the casino owners are billionaires. It's not because they lose. Yeah.
So $8 million for a 30-second ad, John. Just think about that. It's amazing.
Any of the ads from history jump out at you? There was the famous one, they always have these surveys, and I'm curious to see what's added this year. They have these surveys of the most powerful halftime commercials or Super Bowl commercials because a lot of times it's worth it. And Macintosh always comes up number one when they did
remember
the
that
1984 with the fellow, throwing it and just sort of launching their new Mac, so to speak. That's the one that always wins. There was one by E-Trade a couple years back. This is going back 20, 25 years where they just had these two sort of, for lack of a better term, you'll excuse the vernacular, but these kind of hicks sitting in this garage, and there's a monkey standing on a can, and he's just dancing up and down, and they're just playing this horrible music, and at the end it says, well, we just wasted $5 million. It's literally... And then there was one with E-Trade as well, where he has money coming out of his wazoo. They're like, does this man have insurance? Insurance. He has money coming out the wazoo. And they're like, you should be so lucky. E-Trade for the rest of us. Those are some of the ones that resonate. I always like the humor ones better than the others. Any that jump out at you?
Well, I like the Bud Bowls when we were kids.
Yeah,
yeah. Do you remember the one where it was the children and they're like, when I get older, I want to have a brown nose. And I want to be in middle management.
I'm going to shoot for middle management. Yeah. I do remember that. Yeah.
I thought those were good. And what was the Tracy Morgan ones? Do you remember those? Good Enough? Or it was like close enough was the punchline. And they'd be like, is this, parachute packed? It's packed well enough, and like it was.
I don't remember that. I'm going to look that up right now.
This is the last couple of years. That one is pretty hilarious. But yeah, I like those.
Doritos always has a good one. Doritos. And the Budweiser Clydesdales are always heartstrings. Yeah. They get you.
And when you can do stuff with AI, though, like a commercial doesn't mean as much because you're like, did they actually go through the trouble, or is that just they, got their computers to render it? Like it's
now that's an interesting question. Do you not think it's worth as much? Because you still have to be creative. I mean, you have to give AI sort of parameters. You can't just say, make me a great commercial. I suppose you probably can. And it probably will spit out something that will win you an award. Make me a great commercial.
Yeah.
But, the ones that I found that are very effective recently, they had one for Amazon and for Google that were about life. And there was one with, a lady going through Alzheimer's, and he said, hey, Amazon, or hey, Alexa, play our song, and they dance. And it just, those are the ones that always tear at the heartstrings.
Yeah.
I like those. But no, I it'll be interesting to see what I'm finding difficult to square with artificial intelligence is this picture real?
Yeah.
Like there's a thing going on the internet now where John Kennedy, former President Kennedy, who's been dead since 1963, is talking directly to the current occupant of the White House, saying, hey, dickhead, why don't you just put your name on other buildings and leave my building, meaning the Kennedy Center, alone? And then he says, and fuck you, and sticks up his finger. I mean, It looks as real as could be. I mean, the man's been dead for 60 plus years. Yeah. So it does scare me a little bit in that sense.
Yeah.
Yeah. Any other thoughts on the Super Bowl?
So 1.47 billion wings apparently are consumed, and 325 million gallons of beer, according to Britannica.
Wow.
Just imagine that.
It's something like at least half of the United States televisions. I think it's half to 2/3 of televisions in the United States, and their overall viewership approaches something like 1 billion.
Yeah, I think in the U.S. I saw 128 million.
Of the U.S.?
Yeah.
Okay, so it's about 40 to 50% of the television in the United States. And that's just, those numbers are magnificent in terms of that kind of thing. And it really is a global phenomenon. It's an unbelievable event. And by the way, the name Super Bowl, do you know how it started?
No.
Actually, it started from the Hunts, who own the Kansas City Chiefs. One of their grandchildren was playing with a Superbowl, like one of the bouncy Super Bowls, right? Mm-hmm. And it dawned on him at that point that they should start calling the game the Super Bowl, because it was, until Super Bowl III, known as the AFC NFC Championship.
Yeah.
Yeah. NFL Championship, that's what it was, I think it was. And so they changed it to the Super Bowl. And this will be number 60 this year, which is amazing to consider.
And it's great. It keeps Americans in tune with their Roman numerals, too. I love that.
It does. However, I was very much dismayed because for 50, which I distinctly remember was the Seattle Seahawks against the Denver Broncos, Seahawks won.
Yep.
They wrote the number 50.
Really?
Because what is the Roman numeral for 50?
Oh, what is it?
L. So it would have been Super Bowl L.
L. Ooh.
The next year they went back. They had L1, 51.
Or LI. Yeah. Huh. So that's loser?
That's how I always remember it. LCDM. L is 50, C is 100, M is 500, D is 1,000.
Cool.
Or excuse me, LCD, D is 500. M is
LCDM.
Yep, that's
gotcha.
it. Yeah, CAML.
People learn stuff on this podcast, John.
Yeah. I wouldn't say much. I wouldn't. Don't come here and think that we're going to be talking about the most in-depth and interesting topics of all time.
Yeah.
So, but I think the Super Bowl is something that has become a global event. It's not really even just a national event anymore. It's a global event in a lot of ways. Not like this World Cup, which, by the way, are you planning on going to any games? They're going to have games here in Philadelphia. I'm sure a ticket's going to be, $28 million. I'm going to figure out a way that my family and I can get to these games. At least one. I don't care if Ecuador is playing, Sri Lanka. I want to go to a game.
Zero interest. I have zero.
You don't?
Interest.
You don't have any interest?
No.
Huh. Now that is truly the global event, the World Cup. To me, that is the coolest thing. Yeah. So.
Zero.
Huh. I'm disappointed in you, Timmy. Not surprised, but disappointed. So.
I can live with it.
It's all right. But that being said, we both have heroes this week because we're keeping it light, talking about the Super Bowl. I'll just, before we get into this, I'll just say go Seahawks. Sorry, Commissioner Davis, if you're listening, go Seahawks. If the Patriots win, I'll be able to sleep that night.
Yeah.
I will. Because I genuinely do like Mike Vrabel. But we both have heroes this week, right, Tim?
Yeah, we do.
Let me give you mine, and then you do yours. Is that cool?
Yeah.
Okay. I have had repeat whack jobs. J.D. Vance usually manages, who, by the way, is expecting another child with his wife, so congratulations on that. So, but he has been a repeat whack job of the week, and this is the first time I'm going to do this, my repeat hero of the week. And I'm going to make Commissioner Davis and police writ large my heroes of the week this week. And it really resonated with me. I had never actually read Robert Peel's thesis on police work that was posted to the show notes last week. To your point, if you want to learn, hey, all dozens and dozens of you listening, if you want to learn, come on our show. Anyhow, I read his, understanding, and he really highlighted, Robert Peel did, and I think good police do this, the importance of, civic trust. It's important that the people trust you, that you're there to maintain order. You have an expectation for legitimate use of force and when it's necessary. But the thing that really resonated with me was Robert Peel called out the idea that, look, it's way better to prevent crime than to catch the criminal. Meaning your job as a police officer is to make sure that the crime doesn't happen. That's not saying that people who break the law or do something bad don't deserve to have punishment accorded. I get that. But he really, in his thesis, if you go back and read it, it's really about the prevention of crime is what effective policing is. And hearing Commissioner Davis talk, and this isn't sort of a criticism, although there are multiple criticisms that could be leveled at ICE's behavior in Minnesota, it was really interesting to me to separate, because he said, look, that's not policing. And that's not what we're trained to do. And so it's a very, very difficult job. It's not one that I would be comfortable doing myself. So as a consequence, I want to make police writ large, and particularly Commissioner Davis, my hero this week.
Yeah, I love it. I totally agree. I love it when guests come on and bring something up that you've never thought of or never thought of in that way. Like Gina Bennett was safety versus security, right? And this last time it was Ed Davis saying the difference between policing and law enforcement. And I would use those ideas interchangeably. And it's just, I've been talking to people all week about this idea that policing is something different in something more, community focused and generous and engaged in some ways. And yeah, I totally agree. I think it was neat. And if you haven't listened to that one, folks, it's a good interview in our previous podcast.
And one of our closest listeners, Paul, I won't give out his last name, but he said, "Tell Commissioner Davis he's got the greatest radio voice." And he said, "I will. I'll let him know."
Yeah.
So, yeah. Who's your hero this week,
So
Timmy?
my hero hails from across the pond, John. His name is Zach Howells. So he was driving on the motorway with his mother, and she passed out with her foot on the wheel, and he safely steered the vehicle to the grassy shoulder, and nobody got hurt. The hardest part is they were driving on the wrong side of the road. So he was praised by the chief constable for his actions.
Now, were they driving on the wrong side of the road from America?
That was a bad American pun, sorry.
Oh, all right. No, that was good because I was waiting. Well, first of all, they were driving on the wrong side of the road. Yeah.
Yeah. So,
Touche.
Yeah.
And I'll explain, by the way, where that came from in just a moment.
oh yeah. So anyways, so he's the hero for. I always love it when somebody does, acts quickly to save a life or in exigent circumstances. So good on you, kid. So.
Well, actually, two things have arisen from jousting. One is the military salute, which was a traditional way for people to raise their
visor.
shield.
Yeah.
Raise their visor and say, "This is me, you're looking at me." And that's how the military salute started.
Mm-hmm.
The second aspect is why descendants and colonies of the British, aside from the United States, probably because we were the only one who's separated by force. That's not true, but the big one that's separated by force, drive on that side of the road is from jousting. The vast majority of people are right-handed, and so two right-handers coming at each other is where they made the seat. And further, that's how they ended up driving on that side of the road, right-handed. So think about that.
Oh, interesting. Oh, hold on. So you're right-handed and you're jousting.
Yep.
And so the way the British do it is how you would joust. So you would drive on the left side of the road.
Yes, that's correct.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
You would
Gotcha.
drive on the left side
because
of the
you'd
road.
have your jousting hand towards the other person coming your way.
Towards the other guy.
Yeah.
Both
Okay.
people are right-handed coming at each other. You can't do it the other way.
Yep. Gotcha. Okay.
Right?
Yep.
Yeah. It's just as simple as that. So.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's like when I would try to explain New York City to people sometimes. I'd be like, well, it goes Lex Park Mad. Those are in that order. And then there's 1st Avenue, 2nd, 3rd, I think Lex Park Mad, and then 5th, all the way to 11th and 12th. It's literally the simplest grid system you could ever figure out. That's why when the Twin Towers went, it really screwed up below south of Houston in the Soho area, because that's how you got around down there. Mm-hmm. But like the simplest answer is usually the answer for these complex ideas. Do you know the same thing with the interstate highway system, right? If it's an odd number, it goes north-south. If it's an even number, it goes east-west.
And the numbering
and
starts
10 is all the way at this.
Yep.
Yes, 10 is all the way at the south, 90 is all the way at the north of the country, 95 is all the way on the east, 5 is all the way on the west.
5 is on the west. Yeah.
Yeah, 5, 15, 25, 35, 45, 55, 65, 75, 85.
Do you know why you embark on an airplane from the left?
No.
I haven't heard that. I haven't had this validated, but I think it's because that's the side you get on a horse from.
That would make sense.
Yeah.
That's traditionally what people did. Yeah, why not, right? Yeah, it totally makes sense. Well, Timmy, this was a good light sort of conversation around the Super Bowl. We've got some pretty heavy-duty guests coming up, which we won't spoil just yet, but I think it's important. And, with all the news that's going on in the world, every once in a while, just having a talk about sports is okay. So everybody just enjoy the game, whether you're rooting for the Patriots or the Seahawks. I hope it's a heck of a game and enjoy the ads. And I'm interested to see what Bad Bunny's all about myself, because I don't know much about him. So, but Timmy, I will sign off by saying go Seahawks. And of course, this is John Boland saying, hey, misbehave, drive fast, take chances.
And everybody enjoy the game. Remember, the NFL will win. That's my prediction. If everybody likes what you're doing, you're probably not doing anything worthwhile. Take care out there, and let's keep talking.